What's going on, y'all? This is Francisco with Covenant Dispatch LLC, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So if this is your first time visiting this channel, please do me a favor. Right below this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and lastly, hit that notification bell if you want to be alerted for future videos that we post. We try to post videos at least once a week, and in the near future, we're looking to post them more frequently. But anyways, as you can see in some of the content that we post a lot of things about trucking, the trucking industry, and in more particular, independent freight dispatching and box trucking. So in this video, as you can see in the title, I actually just wanted to talk about 10 practical principles or steps you can go by or establish when you start a trucking company in the year 2023. So I know there's a lot of talk about whether or not it's smart to start a trucking company in the year 2023 just because of how the spot market rates are going and amongst other things that are happening in the economy. A lot of people ask, is it smart to actually even start a trucking company? And I honestly still think it is smart to start it. I think when it comes to trucking, the trucking industry, it's just all about, and we'll jump into it, but it's really just all about having the proper game plan and doing, your due diligence, making sure you know what you're doing and that you understand the industry before jumping in it. So most of you guys, if you've seen already some of my other videos, you already know that I actually started a trucking company in the year, I believe it was 2019, and I still have the MC number and everything like that. However, I had to shut it down because one of the trucks crashed, and then one of the trucks crashed, and then another one of them, basically something happened with the fuel gauge sensor, something like that, and it sat for a long time. And then I had another truck that the seat broke. So a bunch of stuff happened all at once, and I wasn't ready for it, and I didn't realize basically how expensive it was to operate a trucking company. So I had to kind of basically put it on suspension until recently, until now I'm getting ready to start doing everything that I need to do to get it rolling again. And anyway, so I do have the experience and the understanding. I come from a family that my mother has been in trucking for like the past 11 years, and then my stepfather has been for like I think the past 7 years or so. So I have an understanding on how the industry operates, more or less. So anyways, with that being said, I wanted to jump right into these 10 steps. I believe these 10 steps will be gems for you guys, especially for those who have never, started a trucking company, but you're looking to start one and you've been having, visions and dreams like, okay, I want to actually start a trucking company. These 10 steps, I believe, are going to help you and be gold for you and, giving you instruction on starting your trucking business. Before I do that, one thing I wanted to mention is that we do offer an independent freight dispatcher course for those who want to learn how to start an independent freight dispatching company from home. And we have that course in the link under the description in this video. We'll have a link for you to access that course. We also have a startup kit that's a more inexpensive option to learn the independent freight dispatching industry. It doesn't have as much as the startup kit. As the independent freight dispatcher course, but it does have an ebook and a bunch of other templates and things that you can utilize to start your own independent freight dispatch company. And it's only $50. The independent freight dispatcher course is only $200, jam-packed with information, nothing but great reviews. And you guys can go through and look at kind of what it has to offer before making a decision. But I believe it's well worth it, not just because it's my course, but because the amount of information that you get with it compared to the price is, I believe, unmatched in my opinion. But anyways, you guys, give your own opinion and base it upon that. We also do offer a box trucking, building your own box trucking business course as well. And again, you guys can go click on the links under this video if you're interested in those, and you could check it out. And I'm looking to possibly start a trucking company course as well. Make it really inexpensive, but jam-pack it with information for you guys to, learn how to jump into the trucking industry. All right, without further ado, let me just jump right into these 10 steps. So Step number one, if you're looking to start a trucking company in the year of 2023, write out a business plan. This is actually something that I didn't do that I wish I would have done. It sounds cheesy for most people, but if you actually just get a template, a business plan template, and just fill it out, give yourself goals and milestones that you want to reach, because those goals and milestones will actually keep you motivated. I feel like sometimes people just jump into businesses, and because they don't actually have these written out business plans and without any goals or milestones, they kind of just jump into it, and they're just like day by day figuring out what they're doing. But if you don't have no goals or milestones, then it kind of leaves you with no expected end. It's just like, what are we doing, right? So tip number one, I'd say write out a business plan and write some goals and milestones that'll motivate you. Number two, do your due diligence in the industry. Please learn the industry. I did a lot of research before I started. And then again, I had like a background of trucking before I even started. And even with all of that, I still should, have learned more things. And I kind of got lazy and just excited and jumped right into it. But do your due diligence, because this is going to help you avoid as many mistakes as possible. Now, no matter what, you're going to come across those things that you just have to learn by experience. So I'm not saying you're going to totally avoid mistakes. However, you want to try to reduce the amount, as many mistakes as possible, especially in the trucking industry, because the trucking industry, one mistake can cost you your whole business, because it's a very expensive industry. I'd say it's probably one of the most expensive industries to get into, right? But it's also has the potential to make you a lot of money. So number two, do your due diligence, right? Tip number three, pick a specific niche that you want to start with. And when I say niche, and also with that, pick a specific niche and formulate your game plan based upon your niche, right? So whatever niche you decide you want to do, and when I say niche, I mean, in the trucking industry, it's actually more complex than people think. It's not just buy a truck, find work, haul the work. There's so many different things. There's flatbeds, there's dry vans, there's reefers, there's hot shots, there's box trucks, there's Conestogas, there's dump trucks, right? And there's so many different regulations. Not so many different regulations, but each one has different strategies and game plans that you want to abide by. So figure out what niche. Figure out, okay, do I want to start a box trucking business? Do I want to start a trucking company formulated around dry vans or reefers or whatever you decide you want to do? Do your due diligence based upon that niche and follow that niche out. And then after you begin to learn the industry more, you can start to expand into other niches. But I believe that's key for you to learn exactly which one you want to start with, what niche you want to start with, because you can study the trucking industry and still not know, if you don't pick the right niche and stick to that niche, you'll be all over the place basically. So stick to a niche, right? So tip number 4 is be organized. So this is also extremely key in the trucking industry. Be organized. When I say be organized, have a bookkeeping software game plan, whether you want to write up your own one on Excel. I always recommend QuickBooks. They're really great, bookkeeping software. But be organized, have a bookkeeping software, have a TMS, which is basically a transportation management software. It helps you basically keep your ducks in a row when it comes to dispatching operations and most operations that you'll have in your trucking business. Have computer files, have folders, have all your paperwork in order, because it can get very confusing if you're not organized. So tip number 4, be organized. Tip number 5, operate with integrity. And the reason why I say that is most of you might already know from just being around it or, in it yourself right now, but the trucking industry is very, very cutthroat. It's a cutthroat industry. A lot of swearing, a lot of cussing, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of, basically a lot of competition. That's basically what it is. And so if you operate with integrity, I believe in the principles of life. One of the principles of life is, when you operate that way, you always reap, the same thing back, right? So you want to operate with integrity when starting or even operating a trucking company. Tip number 6, understand your cost per mile and every other overhead cost so that you know what standard to go by and that you always have your profit margin that you're making. So the reason why I say that is your CPM or your cost per mile is usually always going to be your standard to go by when it comes to how to figure out where your profit margin is going to be at, because the trucking industry is mostly based upon you delivering freight. And so you always want to figure out what your CPM is. So that way you can always make sure you go above it. How much does it cost you to operate every mile? Because then, the freight and the load and the work that you're looking for, you want to always make sure that the rate per mile exceeds that of your cost per mile, so that you have a good profit margin. And then keep in mind, it's besides cost per mile, you also have other overhead costs such as insurance, such as diesel and things like that, right? So you want to put that, jam pack it all in one, and just make sure that however much it's costing you to operate your trucking company, make sure that the work that you get is exceeding that, so that way you can make a good profit. I think a lot of people don't really understand that when they jump into trucking, and so when they do jump right into trucking, they don't understand what their cost per mile is. They kind of make irresponsible, ignorant decisions that cost them in the long run, and it causes a lot of trucking companies to crash. As a matter of fact, I think they said, I remember reading an article not too long ago that said about close to 90. Was it 90 or 80? I think it was like 80%. Close to 80% of trucking companies that begin fail or give up in their first year, which is insane, right? And so, and it has to do with that. That's one of the reasons why. And so that was tip number 6. Tip number 7, don't rely on the load boards only. If you've already done your due diligence enough to understand what load boards are, then you guys know what I mean. If you don't know what load boards are, continue to do more research to understand what I'm talking about. But you don't want to rely on load boards only, which leads me right into tip number 8. Build good relationships with freight brokers and treat them right, and they will take care of you. I remember one time I worked for a trucking company as a dispatcher. Literally, it was a very short period of time. But I'll never forget the guy told me the one day, he said, "Hey, do you see this broker?" He was showing me the broker on the load board. And I said, "Yeah." And he said, we did all of our work, and I think the year was 2017. He said, "We did all of our work in the year 2017 with this one broker. He made us over 1.4 million or something like that." So basically, this trucking company got all their work from this one broker, but they had a good relationship. So establish good relationships with freight brokers, treat them right, they'll take care of you, and always try to go for building relationships with these brokers so that you go to them versus going directly to the load board for freight. That leads me into tip number 9. And tip number 9 is make it a goal to strive for direct local shipments with the shippers versus dealing with freight brokers, because it's more money and less mileage. So a lot of times trucking companies just get kind of lazy really and rely only on the load boards, and which is fine. You can still make money off of that, but get yourself into the contracted freight as well. There's so much more money, and you cut out the middleman, and you make more money for less mileage. So overall, you're making out because you're not putting as much damage on your trucks, right? Versus people who are just driving all over the place for pennies. You still make some good money, but you're damaging your trucks quicker than they need to be damaged. And so, tip number 9, make good relationships with brokers, but ultimately you want to deal with shippers directly and just haul freight that they have for you. Cut out the middleman and make more money, right? That's the goal. You want to make more money. And lastly, tip number 9, make sure you surround yourself with a solid team of employees and truck drivers and treat them right. I think this is one of the biggest ones, which is why I saved it for number 10. Is because when you start a trucking company, because it's so expensive to start and because there's so great overhead costs, you have to make sure that the people you surround yourself around, number 1, know what they're doing, and also aren't, have good work ethic, and also aren't just some, knuckleheads. You want to make sure you got some good people around you, and, so that way you can reduce the amount of mistakes, like I mentioned earlier. And then the other thing I wanted to mention with that is that there's a high overturn, if I'm saying that right, rate when it comes to drivers working for trucking companies. There's so many drivers that'll there's so many trucking companies out there. I believe there's over 530,000 registered trucking companies within the United States at any given time. So there's so many different options that drivers have. And so a lot of times they'll bounce around from company to company because a lot of these trucking companies don't treat drivers right and fair. And so treat your drivers right, treat your employees right, and you can never go wrong. Remember I said the trucking industry is extremely cutthroat. So you want to make sure that you operate with integrity and have a good team around you, and you'll have great success in the trucking industry. And if you follow these 10 tips, and there's more that I could put on there, but if you follow these 10 tips, you'll have a successful company. It doesn't even matter what kind of economy we're having. There's always businesses that thrive in bad times, right? For example, you look at COVID, Amazon shot through the roof, Tesla shot through the roof. It doesn't really matter necessarily what is going on in the economy versus what kind of game plan you have for your business. So the trucking industry is not going anywhere. That's one of the things that aren't going to go anywhere. Real estate, freight logistics, these things are going to remain forever, in my opinion. I don't have much hope in the future of self-driving Tesla trucks personally, but other people might think otherwise. But anyways, I think these 10 practical tips will help you out in starting a trucking company. Guys, I always leave my email in the description under this video. If you guys have any questions, shoot a question over to me. I do consultations. We have the courses, and we're looking to add a bunch of more things, tools and tips and things that you guys can utilize to help you out. Any questions, let me know. If you know this video will help anybody and bless anybody. If you know anybody that's aspiring to start a trucking company, but they don't really know,